Hello, everyone, and good afternoon, and welcome to this live conversation. Well, a warm welcome to everyone joining us through Zoom and at the same time who have joined in on YouTube as well. Well, you might find yourself muted, as you know, we are gathered in a large audience today. Yet feel free to explore and share, exchange your notes and questions through the option chat that you can find right below on your screens. Well, it is 12 and I see everyone's joined in. So Sujita, are you ready?
Yes, let's go. I'm ready.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great. So guys, I'm Chelsea and I will be having this conversation about value creation through IDM and mission with Sujita Baruah. Well, Sujita, thanks for being a part of this conversation. And Sujita, I've heard about you since the time I've joined Decathlon. And ever since, I always had this thought to say, I really want to know Sujita's journey in Decathlon. So, Sujita, my first question to you as we open this conversation, can you share your journey elaboratively that you've had in Decathlon?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. It's great to see you all. About my journey. So it's been about 9.5 years in Decathlon. I started in production. It's been a roller coaster ride till late. A lot of ups and downs, to be honest. And I think for a college pass out, it could not have been a better start in terms of, getting a platform where you could learn so many things. So I started in production as a production leader of quality and industrialization. My first project was to open a supplier in North India. And I still remember, I think the foundation of the company strongly got rooted with me when I started to understand that as a company, we have so much of belief in something so strong, like, in terms of partnership with suppliers and so on. We don't do it randomly. Just like our stores, we have to be very sure the suppliers are not, practicing any child labor, or safety and security is of utmost importance. Only then we partner with suppliers. So as a college pass out, for a first project to be of this nature was like a big roller coaster. My induction was for around 2 months alone in a factory in Indore. And after that, I had to open a supplier in Meerut. And I was responsible also to sort of develop and prototype a couple of Fugonza trousers, which we very happily see nowadays in our stores, and a couple of Keshwa shirts. So that's been my first project. And the kind of HRP audits and the partnerships and the kind of atmosphere that I was in with the ecosystem of leaders and coaches around, and that time we used to call them managers, was just amazing. And I think I got a great kickstart in terms of my journey in Decathlon since then. Then I realized I have never seen a Decathlon store. Where are these all products going to? And then there was a big opportunity, in Bangalore, because I was based in Delhi at the time, to come and join in supply chain as a retail supplier in Domino's. And back then I was working with a lot of retail suppliers in China and these kind of things, because as a PLQ and PLQI, you work with retail suppliers. And that's when I thought, wow, retail suppliers job is also pretty interesting. How can I go about it? So when I understood there was a need here, I just came to Bangalore, and I saw our first store, Sarjapura, and I saw it for the first time through the eyes of a customer. It was a humongous store in front of me. I never realized Decathlon looks this way. Never heard of Decathlon before. So that's when I said, okay, I think, the only store in India is in Sarjapur, and doing the job of retail supplier here would make me closer to the store. And I thought it's a great opportunity to take and grab. So since then, my new responsibility in Bangalore as a retail supplier was to manage about 500 models, because back then Domino's was just one team member game, and we had just one store. And as a retail supplier also, we were doing almost everything. So when I see today a lot of young teammates doing so many things in stores, it sort of gets me these memories of, when as a retail supplier, you're doing the CAT plan, you were ordering stock, you were also implanting new stores. My first good memory has been the implantation of Bannerghatta store, because back then, we did not have a proper system, where you are picking, where the picking of products from warehouse used to be done by the retail supplier, and we used to be in the warehouse, pick up the stock, put it in the truck along with the team of warehouse, come back to the store at night, do the unloading from the truck, and put them in, put the fixtures first ourselves, and then put the products. So the first awesome memory has been the implantation of Bannerghatta store. And it just was amazing how, as a retail supplier, I was just doing so many things around. And that's why I say to a lot of young teammates now, that whenever you are in a difficulty of not finding the right process or so on, I think we are all part of the game to fix it, because Decathlon is still, a baby. I mean, that back then it was an embryo. I think it's still a baby. So we still have a long, long way to go in terms of putting the right process and so on. The next one was when I got the new responsibility to start leading Kalenji in India as a brand manager. Back then we used to call it. So I have very good memories of Nicola Pelletier, back then the brand director of Kalenji campus, and him visiting India for the first time, because the partnership was growing strong. And I can say a mini victory back then was, the share of Kalenji was 6%. And with all the work that we were doing together, we were able to grow the share of Kalenji within India. I mean, I am talking about Decathlon share within Decathlon. We took it to 8.5% share. So that was like a great memory also, because we worked so hard with the offer and the supply and so on. But having said that, I will cover up a lot of points later on. Of course, I made many, many, many mistakes. I think it's part of the game. You always learn the job by doing it. Leading Kalenji was an awesome memory. And as Decathlon does it always, whenever you're comfortable with a job, you are either given some more or you change the project. But of course, along with that, I would like to emphasize that, don't keep hovering around different responsibilities. Also, you have to first make a mark of what you're doing, at least some improvement, at least some development in the project that you're already part of. So along with Kalenji, the intention, keeping in mind the intention of the company also, I was asked to work on the plan director of FLX with the base camp in Kipsta, so that we get the right kind of support. And people in Europe were sort of dreaming and imagining what is cricket in India, even though I'm not a cricket player, but I think cricket is in our blood. So it was not so hard to talk about cricket as a dream for a country like India, and how to sort of create the route for this project along with the right support that we could get from Basecamp. So all these presentations with Kipsta and the plan director worked for 6 months was also another good memory. After that, I got an opportunity to start and to open the Anubhava store along with obviously an amazing team. And then I really wanted to join retail full-fledged, because Anubhava was still part of the offer and supply, and the organization was different. So I worked in the opening of Anubhava for about a year, because that time I was told that they needed my support more in offer and supply, because a lot of new brand managers were in the team back then. So I worked in Anubhava for about a year, and then I wanted to join full-fledged retail. It was almost about 5 years for me in supply chain overall, with all these different responsibilities in different years. But in 2016, I said I would like to move to Whitefield, and there was an amazing opportunity in Kalenji, Auxerre, and Newfield. I joined there as a department manager back then. And then soon I got the opportunity of leading the store. And if I have to sum up, the journey of Whitefield has till date been the most memorable journey, of course. And I think I had an amazing team to back me up on that. We did achieve some sort of good milestones in Whitefield, in 2016 to 17, we were growing at 21% from 50 crore business to 70 crore business. I think it was an amazing journey working on the shrinkage with some amazing teammates. And after that, I was given some extra responsibility in terms of coaching some store leaders in Bangalore. And since last year, I am leading retail in Bangalore. And that's been my, I think, roller coaster journey for the last 9.5 years, starting with production, about 5 years in supply chain as foreign supply, and about 4.5 years in counting in retail. So that's the journey in Decathlon. About my sport, I have been a national level lawn tennis player and a swimmer. I have participated in a couple of nationals, and I'm swimming and I'm playing lawn tennis since I am 2-year-old, honestly. And in fact, I was introduced to running. Kalinji, as you can see, in a lot of part of my journey, Kalinji is involved. I was introduced to it by one of my managers back then to run. Running was not my passion at all. I'm still not so good at it, but I run. And thanks to running, I was introduced to triathlon a couple of years back by a friend in swimming. I did about 3 nationals and 1 open water triathlon at a national level. So that's about me. And married to another decathlete.
Wow, Sujita, I'm really thankful for this platform to really get to know your journey. I mean, it has been 9+ amazing years in different spaces. And like you shared, making a mark in every space and then, picking up, going forth for the next phase. I mean, it seems to me that at every space in your life, you knew exactly what to do, which is amazing. And speaking of what to do, today's topic being value creation. I mean, we all know that we need to create value, but how does one go about it? How does one define the space? How did you define the space of value creation?
Yeah, I think value creation is a vast topic, but it's very simple in its essence. I will not talk about value creation financially, because when we talk about financially, it's I think we have better people to talk about it, like Marcos maybe, about economic value creation and so on. But what I'd like to emphasize on is what is the essence of value creation, and how can we track whether we are of any value. Are we creating any value on our everyday basis actions on the floor, or even strategically at a country level, or at a state level, or at a city level, or at a store level, or even in your sports if you are working in sports? To sort of sum it up, value creation is not just economical. It's linked to human, it's linked to environmental. And of course, when we say human, we include teammates, we include customers, we include shareholders, and we include our community when we talk about human. And also another very important aspect, like we are talking about the environment since last couple of years, and the green project has been of immense importance. We are talking about reducing 15% carbon CO2. All our actions on a day-to-day basis, how is it helping to sort of create value, either human-wise or environmentally? And thanks to all our actions, we are able to create economic value through our actions. So, a simple example, in many IDMs, we write down actions saying, okay, my action for the next 1 month is, let's say, an event. Okay, if you just say an event, maybe you are not able to measure whether you're creating value through that event or not. What's your KPI? What's your target through that event in terms of value creation? It's very important to sort of reflect on those topics, because we are all entrepreneurs, and whatsoever we do at the end of the day, we have to we make business, and that is who we are. That is what we do in our day-to-day actions. So through an event, if we are able to write down in our files to say, okay, I will execute an event, 200 participants, which means, you are opening up this event to customers or to users who will come and join, 200 customers. So your touch point is 200 customers, human wise. It's a value creation, because thanks to your event, they are able to participate. After that, what's also important is environmentally, like I was telling you about my experience in production. It's very important we keep the environment in mind, we keep the society in mind. For example, in our organization, are we throwing the cups here and there during the events? Something very, very simple, but it's part of the planning. So are you able to create value even in your society that way, in organizing a good event, a clean event? And then important one for most of us when we are working in the store is, okay, we are organizing a running event, but commercially speaking, let's say we are targeting 2 good TGs during that week. And at the end of the event, if we can say, thanks to this event, out of 200 participants, 5 of my customers actually came back and brought this, I don't know, a Kipran shoe. And that's commercial, that's economical. And that, if you can calculate, this is value creation on an everyday basis. Value creation is actually everywhere. In the last 2 months, I have seen some amazing videos made by so many teammates regarding some products. Now, how are you creating value by doing those videos? If you are able to post them online, or if people are looking at it, and at the end, if You are able to track how many products did you sell through, organizing a commercial video that way. I think that's value creation. Similarly, even, in our simple activities, like Arjun manages to do the Namaste every month. How is it value creation? It's because you are empowering and you are, you are giving out information about what's happening in the company to so many teammates through that document. So that's value creation. And at the same time, I think value creation is quite linked to efficiency. What we also need to keep in mind is so that we are not doing something which is not creating value also at the same time. Like, too many analysis done or too many documents shared. I think that's a bit of waste of time sometimes, or too many workbooks created by the end of the week. I think that's somehow inefficiency. So there's a very thin line between what's value creation and what's not. So it's very important when we write down our actions, whether it's a weekly action or a monthly one or a yearly mission, it's very important all our activities leads to some sort of value creation, whether it's human-wise, environmental, and thanks to all of this, and economic value creation. I give this example a lot of times when I'm in the stores or I'm around with some teammates, simple action linked to layout. If you go to a chaiwala near your store or near your factory, if the chaiwala has 5 dabbas of biscuits and if one of them is out of stock, he will not keep it empty. His action is to fill this 5th one with something which is available. And that's an action. And through that, I'm sure he's creating value because he's selling more of those. So that action is value creation. So I think what's important is whenever we write down an action, whether it's a monthly one or whatsoever, it's very important to link it to some sort of outcome. What are you creating by doing so? Like even in this pandemic times, I have had this question a couple of times from many teammates. Okay, my sport is not doing well. How do I create value? Okay, so nobody is coming for swimming these days. How do I create value? Never mind, be agile. You know that fitness is booming. You know that cycle is booming. Go learn to fix a cycle. I have seen, and many of you have actually done this beautiful in the last 2 months. You have started your new passion of cycling, or probably you have started a new passion in fitness, and you are creating value where it's needed. And somehow it's also linked to the fact that what we call in Decathlon, be where you are needed. If we are needed in fitness, if we are needed in cycle to create more value, why not? Today, we know that our business is booming towards online. And if we are needed more in logistics, why not? A couple of us can make that choice. So that's value creation, according to me.
Thank you for sharing that, Sujita. I mean, the examples that you have shared makes me, introspect about my daily operations. And, speaking of which, it gets me, I'm even more curious to ask you, what helped you become a value of example in the roles that you have played? Like, how did you create value each time? And not just that, but perform as well.
Right. So I think, like I was sharing, whenever we are doing a job or whichever role we are in, it's important to give time. When we talk about performance, according to me, you don't start performing from day 1 or hour 1 in your new job or in your new role. Performance for me is a mixture or multiplication of 3 very important ingredients. Number 1 being motivation. You have to have that motivation. What do you want to achieve? And is it making you happy by doing what you're doing? I think if you have the motivation, it's surely, boosts up your performance in a way. Second one, extremely important as well. Do you have the right skill set to do that job, to perform in your job role? And which is where I believe in Decathlon, we have got an amazing ecosystem of different people around you, different reference coaches, leaders around you, from who you can learn those skills. And if you talk about a simple job role, according to me, in terms of learning the skills and so on, it takes the first year or the second year, in fact, in a lot of times, to sort of learn the job in the first place. And normally from the second year or the third year and onwards, you start performing on that job role, because thanks to the skills that you have learned while you were doing the job in the first year. So the second one is very important, the skill sets. And the third one is another very important aspect is the purpose. What is the purpose of this job role? How is it connected to the company's project? Is your personal motivation, is your personal project linked to the, let's say, the company's vision or the company's project? If yes, I think you will perform, and I think you will create value. So a simple example, something out of the box examples that I'd like to give is, back in the days, FLX, I'm talking about the plan director part many, many years after, but before, it was Ravi who said, okay, FLX, there should be a brand, there should be a passion sport for cricket, and cricket being the most important sport, and it's a religion in India. We don't have a brand for cricket in India. So that's when he said, okay, why don't we start to talk about a new brand for cricket? And even though it was not existing, but it made sense towards the purpose of the company, towards making sports available to the many. And that's why it was linked. And that's why I think those kind of projects makes a lot of sense when we talk about. So whatever, a job role we are in, if there is a good overlapping between the intention of the company and the values of yours or the intentions of yours, if there's a good overlap, I think your performance and your value creation sort of follows you. So just a quick note on this one, because I said it's a multiplication of all these three criterias. Just imagine if one of these is zero, if your motivation is zero, or if your skill is zero, or if your purpose is zero, it sort of nullifies the entire performance, because it's a multiplication between the three, if you know the maths that I'm talking about. So what's important is, out of three, maybe you are sometimes very high on one, sometimes a little low on the other one. But what's important is the existence of all these three factors to be able to perform in what you're doing. So that sort of leads me to the fact that, sometimes just to share one example, when I was retail supplier in Domino's, and we just had one store, and the second store was opening, the Banagatta store. I was asked, do you want to become the department manager back then in Keshwa? And it was a big opportunity for me to become a department manager. And what I was thinking is, I just started this role as a retail supplier. And is it making sense for me to change this role within 6 months or 8 months? And that's when I said, okay, maybe no, this is not a good move. Let me first learn what I started, at least for next 5 years or so. And that's what I did finally, to remain in offer. But sometimes it takes time to learn what you're doing. Don't be in a haste. Don't be in a position of hovering around different options that comes to your plate. So take time to learn the job, take time to perform in the role. And I think if you have the right motivation, the right skill set, and then the purpose is quite interlinked, there is no way why you will not perform in any role, any role. So that sort of leads me also to the fact that, the motivation part, a lot of times I hear, and in fact, to be honest, even I was in the same page, long time back. I always felt, what is my motivation factor, during the day? Is my coach taking a look at what I did, or did my leader observe what I did? But later on, I realized, performance is not about what you did just last month, or what you did yesterday morning, or what you are supposed to do today morning. Performance for me, I think, is a very, it should be a sustainable one. The graph cannot be, up and down too much. Of course, you will have your low moments, you will have your high moments in your journey, but your focus in your performance has to be a sustainable one. And I think that will definitely help you to perform in what you do.
Wow, motivation, skill, and purpose. I mean, it's amazing to know this, Sujita. And if I may ask, Sujita, how old were you when you started? And how did you take decisions? Like, did someone tell you on what decisions to make? Or did you take decisions on your own?
Honestly, I think I was very young when I started in the company, like many of you out there. I started in the company just when I passed out from the college. I was 21-year-old. I have some very funny stories also, how I was young, and I'm still young. I would like to believe that. But there are some funny stories linked to the fact that I was young and I was thrown into a factory, with laborers and people around you, workers around you, who are looking up to you to guide them, to tell them what's not happening, what's happening right, and the factory manager is with you. So it was like when I started, it was like a humongous amount of responsibility suddenly in your in your shoulder. But I took some time to sort of grab the fact that, okay, Decathlon is not just some XYZ company. It really comes with responsibility from day one in what you're doing. So I was quite young, and I took some time to sort of understand the trend, and to understand also the fact that in terms of my decision making. Like, you know, I told you already, from production, I changed quite soon. It was less than a year that I changed from production to supply chain. But that decision was not just mine. You know, I took a lot of feedback from people around, and also I got that feedback at that time that okay, you changed it once, don't keep changing it too often also in your time going forward. And that was in my mind throughout, and that's when I said, you know, a lot of opportunities I also said no to when it came to me, but I felt I need to be a bit more ready before I take them. So decisions, of course, I think while making decisions, it's very important you take feedback around you, but at the same time, don't listen to thousands, you know, take feedback from a couple of people around you who you really trust, who can guide you well on the right direction. And after that, listen to your conscience. If you feel you can do it, you can do it. So, but it's very crucial what I just said about decision making through a forum. And one of the amazing platform that I can say in Decathlon that exists to make the right kind of decisions is the individual decision-making meetings, which normally we do it every month with our coach or leader. And I think during this meeting is a time when you sort of reflect what all you want to do in the future. We keep certain level of time. We'll talk about it in a bit more detail later on. But we do talk about the careers or the journeys going ahead. What do you want to do? And we take a lot of feedback during that moment. So this amazing platform of IDM, I would suggest to all the people out there. It's been in use since last 3 decades by many years, throughout many years ago, you know, and so many things have changed in the company, but not this one. Why? There has to be a reason why the individual decision making is of so much of importance. So, you know, how I made decisions is really through a good ecosystem of good people around me and trusting this ecosystem, really.
Trust, I mean, which is very important in whatever spaces that we are in today as well. And listening to you, Sujita, it brings a smile on my face because you spoke about decision making, and I really wish I had my because one thing that I could relate to decision making is my individual decision meeting, right? And at that point in time, I wish I had concrete IDMs as I have right now, even as I joined as a part-timer back in the days. That gets me to ask you, Sujita, how was your experience when it came to IDMs?
Oh, yes. So, I mean, IDMs, when we say IDM, I think IDMs can be of different types, you know. I mean, the structure of the IDM file is pretty same, but depending on what is your job role, for example, if you are meeting your leader or coach every day, maybe your IDMs will last for 1 hour, 2 hour, or 3 hours maximum. But let's say if you are in a job role which is you know, is of distance between your leader and coach or your workplace. So let's say when I was in the factory, my IDMs was naturally for 2 days because of travel time and so on. So in terms of IDMs, I think there is no thumb rule to say what should be the timeline of an IDM or you know, how often should you meet. Normally we say once a month, but let's say you know, in the recent times I'm meeting my leader once in 2 months. But back in the days, I remember I also met my leader twice in a month. So it really depends on what is the nature of your job role and what is the need, of course. And IDM for me, in a lot of times I have felt with young teammates, and I have been on the other side as well, where I felt it was like a burden, you know, in the beginning to fill that IDM file. What do I fill? I don't remember. What do I write? So what I suggest is, you know, IDM is a very crucial meetup. If you want to progress, you need to have good qualitative IDMs organized monthly, if it can be. It is of great help. It can be monthly. But what I would say is it's a pull mechanism, IDM. IDMs are not push mechanism. As a teammate, we should ensure that my IDM is happening. It's not, I think it is the responsibility of the leader or coach also. But the most important responsibility lies within us as a teammate to make sure that our IDMs are happening. And because it's a crucial meetup and you discuss so many important topics linked to your day-to-day activities, linked to your performance, linked to your mission, linked to your career in the future, etc., linked to your development plan, etc. So another important factor why IDMs are important is because, you know, you don't want a bad surprise, let's say at the end of the year in terms of a performance. IDMs do help you to keep a track monthly to say, are you on the right track? Have you missed down on certain points? Of course, your leader and coach will give you the guidance, will give you will challenge you on certain topics. But I think it's really your platform. It's really your time. And it's not vice versa. It's your accelerator. It's not your brake of your truck. So take these IDMs as really your meeting. And I feel a qualitative IDM is the one when you as a teammate, you come out energized. You feel empowered after you come out of the meeting. You feel the positive about the next couple of days and extra positivity. Normally you carry your own positivity, but you feel over empowered. So I think that's you can measure if your IDM was qualitative or not through these kind of feelings post the IDMs. But what's also important, how do you prepare for it? IDM, normally I say, it's important to share this file a day in advance, because minimum, I say, a lot of leaders also expect it to be 2 days in advance, depends people to people. But I think it's important to prepare for this IDM, because you talk about a lot of important aspects like personal, displeasure, pleasure. You talk about your debrief of your last month. You brief your next month with the actions that you would like to take. How is it going to create value? Your leader can challenge you on some topics. You can take some feedback from it. But what's important is that when we do these IDMs, we have that good environment, that playing field with a good level of trust between the coach and the coachee, or the leader and the coachee. So that kind of trust and playing field is two-way, it's not one way. It has to be from both the ends, and both the ends have to make the right effort to make it work qualitatively. So I feel, these are the main touch points when we talk about IDM. And regarding the times, how much time do you spend about your actions? How much time do you spend about talking about your development plan? I think that ratio, normally I'd like to keep it at 80-20. And if there are some leaders and coaches out there, I like to follow this ratio also of 70-30 normally. Like 70% of your time, your teammates should be talking of what he's feeling or what are his actions. And 30% of the time we are there as leaders or coaches to guide or to challenge. And it's a personal note. I like to keep, some bit of sharing even on a personal front, because once you know each other slightly personally, I think your quality of IDMs can be much more qualitative, because you know what's happening in their lives. That's the gist of IDMs.
Sujita, there's so much happening in an IDM meetup, the crucial meetup, a lot of smart decisions taken. And there's a question, in the minds of teammates out here to say, okay, if you're doing IDMs every month, then why do we need to have a mission? What are your thoughts on it?
So I would like to welcome whoever has not attended, let's say, the management of basics and these kind of trainings. There are a couple of new ones. In fact, I was speaking with Sangeeta. If we want to do our IDMs well in advance, you need to have your mission prepared, because without the mission, what are you debriefing or what are you briefing? Because if you don't have your mission prepared, you don't have a common goal to achieve at the end of the year. If you remember, we started this year with an amazing challenge of the country, Play to Win. We were doing amazingly well, January and February. Congratulations to the entire group here. But after that, COVID happened. And of course, linked to our challenge of the country, Play to Win, we all created our individual mission along with our leaders, along with our coaches. And post that, what we realized is, mission is an A4 document with all the KPIs and so on, but we are also agile when we talk about mission. And this year has been the amazing example of how agile we are as a company. So COVID happened, but we did not give up hope, I mean, we are still fighting for it. And our new challenge for the country is what now? Save 2020, still Play to Win. So we were agile, we updated our mission, and accordingly now we are all acting on it. The couple of teammates asked me, so my mission talked about, let's say, water sports, or let's say sports which are not performing well, what will happen to my mission? No, it's okay, because we are an agile company and we have changed our activities accordingly. So let's update all this mission, and let's update the KPIs that we want to look at the end of the year, so that we can still say, did we have a fruitful year or not? Of course, a lot of things at the back end has been not so great in the last 2 months. But having said that, we still have some mini victories to look forward to. For instance, the challenge saying save 2020, if we can still make that 1 rupee challenge achieved, at the end of the year, and to make that 1 rupee, all of us play a crucial role. So did we update our mission? And without updating that, of course, we cannot work on a monthly basis, or we cannot brief our IDMs, or we cannot brief or debrief our activities for the next month. Having said this, something that I would also like to focus on, mission need not be identical. Like we can do the same role. Sangeeta was giving this example when she goes for a recruitment. She sees, many resumes, but if you hide the name, apparently the entire resume is the same, in our mission file, it's the same. We should have a personal touch also in our mission file. What do you want to achieve personally? Like, simple example from the stores. I'm sorry, I'm just giving store examples, but in the stores, when I look at a couple of individual individual mission files, some of them take up shrink. Of course, shrinkage is one of the important KPIs to achieve, but couple of shrinkage animators. Why? Because his or her passion is really animating this topic. Some of them animate the topic of layout, merchandise. Why? Because for them, it's their big passion, and probably they will become reference of this topic one day. But in all our missions, we do have a personal touch. And apart from, the challenge of the country and the replica of those main KPIs, and after that, never hesitate to also put your personal goals along with the good overlap of the company's intentions. And I think that's a good mission if you are able to achieve these points.
Thank you, Sujita. I mean, knowing all of this makes me motivated, and feel more strong to say, okay, let's really dig deep and make my basics, my mission, my IDM, the zones of value creation, even more better. And yet I have one question for you, Sujita. Don't mind. But, in your amazing journey that you've had so far, I mean, how did you know that you were growing or developing, in the spaces that you were in?
Okay, I think that's an interesting question. I mean, whether we are developing or not, I think it's personal introspection, but also at the same time taking feedbacks, like I told you. So I'm just linking it again back to our IDMs. As I said, there's a certain percentage of your time during the IDM which you invest on discussing your personal development. Do you need some help? Like I remember once upon a time, my development file was really I would say crap, because I put what I want to develop, but there was no action. Back then I used to say, I want to improve my communication skill. But how do you improve your communication skill? Do you just write it and take no action? But if you really want to improve, you have to put some concrete action. And these actions can be as stupid as, I will listen to 2 great motivational speeches every week. Or I will make sure I am debriefing at least 1 meeting in my store or in my team. Or, I am part of at least 1 training during the month. I'm taking at least 1 training because that helps you getting exposed to a community. Or, taking a ride with 50 new, let's say, users for a cycle, because you have to explain about the cycle. So many good jobs are actually done by so many good teammates. But what is important is to write down these actions in terms of what you want to develop. So I felt that in the past, I was not doing that really precisely. But since last couple of years, I feel that I am writing down concrete actions to achieve those points. Like I remember in one of the IDMs with one of the teammates, he said, I want to improve my organizational skill. Okay, but organizational skill for 2 months, he kept saying, I will keep a good, calendar, Google Calendar. But is that enough? Is that really making you organized in your roots? Okay, you will manage your good Google Calendar. That's good step 1, professionally speaking. But I think development has a good base even at a personal front. What are you doing personally speaking to improve on organizational skill? So after a couple of weeks or months, he came back to me and said, okay, I'll come and I will ensure I make my bed every day. I'm organized. I wake up and I make my bed every day. That was a pretty stupid one. But I think doing these kind of simple actions on a day-to-day basis will help you really develop on those points that you want to really, really develop. So it's important to write this down. to discuss, to take feedback. And on the note that, on your personal reflection, do you feel, are you developing or not? There is a simple tool that I keep for myself. It's a tool, or it's a way, I would say, it's a very personal one. But what I like to see is, okay, if I am opening the file 5 years back, let's say an IDM file 5 years back, am I able to laugh at it? If I'm able to laugh at that file, in the quality of that file, in the quality of my analysis of that file, I think I'm making an improvement. And the same stands even today, even 5 years down the line. If I'm not able to laugh at the things that I'm doing today, laugh in a very good sense, in a very positive way. If I'm not able to laugh, which means probably I'm in a standstill. But if I'm able to, I think I'm developing. So I think that's a very personal way, but everyone else can have their own way of introspecting whether you are developing or whether you are growing or not. In a very personal front, my parents told me something a couple of years back. I was in Coimbatore, and my dad comes from agriculture, and he works. He used to work. He's retired now. He used to be an ex-dean of an agricultural firm. So he was invited in Coimbatore Agricultural College to come and give a speech to the new generation college students, along with the director of that college. And I was there with my dad because I was in my vacation. And suddenly the director says, okay, we have Sujita here, who also works in Decathlon, and she has been into sports since childhood. Why don't you come and say what you do in your job role and in front of the college students, So I was taken aback because it was a sudden one, but I went there and I started to speak about my journey, the fact that Decathlon has made me so much responsible from day one at a very young age. And I can sense it, I can feel it when I am talking with my families and so on. And just after that, that brief lecture, my dad and mom came to me and said, Decathlon did really change you. And coming from my family, that one sentence did make me feel that probably, yeah, I think Decathlon and the kind of job that I'm doing has definitely helped me to develop myself or grow in life in general, So that's how I measure if I'm developing or not.
Thank you, Sujita, for sharing. I mean, I can for sure relate to it because, I'm in my early 20s as well. And I look forward to say, okay, how can I develop at every space, given the opportunities that I get? Well, that's the end of our, curated conversation, a lovely 40 minutes. And now let's go. There are a few questions, Sujita, that have come from the teammates out there. And I will just ask you one by one. It's okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. Great. So the first question is from Srijit. He's from Decathlon Eva, Bangalore. His question is, hey Sujita, I would like to get a few heads up in order to ease my IDMs. What are the important steps that you took out to perform your IDMs with your coach?
Okay, interesting one. It's very interesting, and it's very natural that you feel this way, Srijit, that you need to perform in your IDM. I felt so too. But just like I was sharing, IDM is your tool. IDM is not your manager's tool. It's really your platform. So don't take it as a meeting where you need to perform or you need to show only the good things. It's okay. Sometimes you will have some things to share which where you have not performed, where you have faced a difficulty. It's really about discussion. It's really about briefing and debriefing. And I would suggest don't take it as a performance-based meeting, because it's really not. And you will realize with time that, the more you share, the more you take feedback and really act on it, the more this tool is helping you to grow in your day-to-day activities. So that's my answer. Don't take it as a performance tool. Take it as a platform where you can take suggestions, take feedbacks, and discuss.
Great. Thank you, Sujita and Sridhar. I hope you got an answer. The next question out there is from Anjali from Decathlon Jupiter Mall. And her question is, what are the key points to keep in mind to have an effective IDM and to make sure the coach and the coachee together come up with a definite KPI or KPIs?
Right. So that's why, I was sort of linking the mission to your IDM files also. But I understand where it is coming from, Anjali. So don't worry. I mean, in a couple of IDMs, probably we are still discussing about some mini KPIs for some mini actions and so on. So what I suggest is always, whenever you are writing down KPIs, be challenging with yourself. At the same time, be ambitious, be realistic, keep a time bound one. And what I feel is, the leader or the coach is not there to tell you what the final KPI should be, but he or she is there to challenge you or to guide you. Sometimes it's true, we might not be ambitious enough, or sometimes we are too ambitious. There was a nice video we saw a couple of weeks back in one of our weekly meetings, called a 20-mile march. Do watch this video. It will also talk about how monthly and in how all your activities, it's important to keep a sustainable kind of a focus in all your KPIs, in all your actions. Because just imagine if you are sprinting and you are fatigued after that, you can't really perform for the next couple of days or months. But at the same time, if you are very slow, somebody else is going to surpass you in terms of performance. So what's important is, you write down the KPIs. After that, do take the feedback of the leader or coach to challenge you if it has to be challenged. And after that, it's really about coming to a point, ultimately to make sure it's at the benefit of the final goal or the final vision of the company or the project. Simple example, like just post-COVID, we all said scan and pay. Now, scan and pay, we said, okay, as a target, we say more than 50% scan and pay. Why? Because it's going to help our customers, it's going to help our teammates, the organization inside the stores, and so on. But having said more than 50%, of course, I understand month on month, there will be a movie, how you are developing on that point as a team. So you can have, let's say, okay, I'm in July, I'm in August right now. We are standing at, let's say, 25% of scan and pay. For next 1 month, I want to target 40%, even though 50% is the final KPI. But it's okay to have that movie in terms of achieving a final goal. But what's important is that final goal to be well organized with the final KPI of the company or the country or the project and whatever is related.
Thanks for that, Sujita. Anjali, I hope you got your answer. Moving on to the next question, Sujita. It is from Nancy from DLF Mall of India, Delhi. And her question is, I've faced issues at times in filling an IDM file. And I want to really understand what is the right way and when do I start to, prepare for my IDM?
Right. So a very tricky one. And honestly, I was not a big fan of filling IDM files myself in the past. And I always faced issues to say, okay, what were my pleasures? I forgot. What were my displeasures? I really forgot. Okay, I know my main KPIs, I write them, but I think when you start filling your IDM file, if you don't keep a track of your month, you are sometimes lost. It's the same when you fill, let's say, your year-end file or your media file and so on, because there are so many things happening rapidly every day that you do forget a lot of things. So there is one simple way that I have started following last couple of years is during the month, I keep writing or jotting down in a simple document what were the things that happened were very, very nice, like mini victories. Or in some situations also, what are the challenges or what are my difficulties or what are the questions that I have for my leader, which I need to discuss more, or if there was some major displeasure, how can we tackle? So I sort of jot them down in a simple diary. And when you're filling the IDM file 2 days in advance, after that, if you have that, simple diary, normally I carry this document. So if you have this book, it's very simple to jot them down and it's not so hard after that. So try to follow this. I think it will help you.
Thanks for that, Sujita and Nancy and Ritesh, because this question was also from Ritesh. I hope you got your answers. Moving on, there is a question from Abdullah Sheikh, who hails from Hyderabad, Era Manzil. Question is, how do you think we can create a value for the business, especially in this pandemic situation, for the sports which are quite technical or travel based? I mean, what can be done in this situation?
Right. Abdullah, I think we have so many good examples around us, and I can just give you some examples from what's happening really. In the last 2 months, I have realized, everybody has stopped their own perimeters to say, okay, this is my perimeter, this is your perimeter. I think everybody has started to play united. And I think that's how we are going to overcome this pandemic in terms of saving the company, saving 2020. So what I feel is, of course, overnight, a lot of things have changed. Suddenly, we were preparing for summer and the swimming, and suddenly there is not a single swimmer in our layout. I understand where it's coming from. Suddenly, for this AW, we still don't know how many people are going to travel. Normally, we make good business during this time of the year. So I understand where it's coming from. But my suggestion is, as I was sharing, value creation and be where you are needed. So start seeing where are you really needed right now. And I'm sure your leader, your coach will agree with you. If you say, I would like to join the cycle team right now for the next 5 months, because the major need is in cycle team, ready to ride, fixing bikes. It's not so easy for the kind of structure that we had in the past with the limited teammates, because the cycle has shooted up like anything from about 18% to 35% business share, and it's humongous. So your need is there. Similarly, so this is within the store I'm talking about. But similarly, if you look at the company, and we have already started this discussion. Vijay's team is receiving so many calls every day, and suddenly with the Omni business boosting up, we know that we have a big need in taking calls at the UHT team. So why not? We put two hours during the week or 3 hours during the week for those kind of vertical, or to help on those kind of aspects. I think that's value creation. So try to see how can you play united, break all your barriers, don't play perimeters anymore. And I'm sure we'll find the right place where we can create value even during this pandemic.
Thank you, Sujita and Abdullah. I hope you got your answer. Moving on, there's a question from Niveta from the production team, Coimbatore. And a question is, I believe that debrief should be more concentrated on soft skill development and happiness of a team member than the percentage spent on performance, which in everyday basics we are interacting with. Do you think this perspective is the right way to go about?
Okay. So I feel the amount of time you spend on which kind of topic, there is no thumb rule, according to me. And like I was sharing, the quality and the timelines of your IDMs really depends on the nature of the job. Like when you're working in production, let's say you stay in Coimbatore, but let's say your factory is somewhere in the outskirts. It takes travel time. It takes for you to travel together. So probably it's a matter of half a day, in terms of your total time that you have spent to organize the IDM. But within these meetings, you are right, we meet our leader or we discuss a lot of times about the different performances, even during the day or during the week. So in terms of times to be spent on your soft skills, I think it's really about just taking feedback, or, the summation of what all you have been doing in terms of your development. So in a sense, the rule that normally works is about 80-20 rule. So 80% of your time, you discuss your strategies, you discuss your human organization, you discuss your economic consequences, and 20% of your time you can spend on your personal development. So which means you discuss about the trainings that you have taken, or the trainings that you need to take going forward, or what were the difficulties in general if you have in life. So I think that ratio normally works, but it's not a thumb rule. If in general we know that a teammate is really passing through a bad phase of his time, why not? You could spend 50% of the time discussing pleasure, displeasure. So it really depends, I think, the kind of phase that you are in, or the kind of business that you're doing, or what kind of a situation you are in. But yeah, generally 80-20 seems to be the good rule.
Okay, Nivita, I hope your question has been answered. Speaking of which, we might need time. It depends on what situation you're in. There is a question from Irshad. The question is, once the leader, took an IDM of his teammate where including strong briefing is done, okay, but how to ensure that post the strong briefing, that he or she is not getting disappointed and, stays motivated even after the IDM?
True. It's very apt. I think it really comes from experience, what you're saying. And what I believe is really the trust factor. And this is something that often I have told my teams that, if I am little strong with you sometime, please don't mind me, because if I am little strong about what you have not done, or where you could do it differently, or what could have been better, it's really for your benefit. So what I believe is that building of trust is the foundation between a coach and a coachee. And it doesn't happen overnight. It really takes time to build that trust and to build that ecosystem. And generally, that's why what I have felt is whenever you have a glitchy IDM, it's really because you're not agreeing with each other. So how can you find that platform, or the common outcome between your discussions? I think it really comes from the fact that you really trust your leader, and the leader really trusts in your judgments in what you say or what you do. And I think the common base is the trust. So try to build that. I am sure even if you're a little hard or a little harsh sometimes with your words or with the briefing and so on, he or she will not be demotivated. I think he or she will know that this is at the best interest of the teammate, and not because you like to be too harsh, So try to build that. I think it will work.
Okay, great, Ashat. I see your thumbs up there. I'm sure our question has been answered. And there is a question from our YouTube platform. It's from Lavanya. And she asks, Sujita, have you ever missed any of your IDM? If yes, how did you get back on track?
To be very honest, I never missed my IDM. Number one, because I was the one always organizing it, at least from the couple of years that I remember. But of course, in the past, it was a different one. I have already shared with you. I was always hesitating to fill that file. It was a little boring and so on. But no, I never missed an IDM. But of course, some of my teammates have missed IDMs. But I think it's a matter of really being transparent. Okay, you might have missed it. Why? Because probably you did a late night inventory, or you were tired, or I don't know. There has to be a concrete reason why you missed it. Or you did not send the file while maybe it was in your draft, you forgot to send it. There has to be a real reason. And that's why I believe be responsible in the first place, to ensure that you are respecting the time that each other are spending on each other in terms of organizing this meeting. And after that, if you have still missed, it's not the end of the world. It's really about sharing why you have missed it and coming back with the next date, really.
Okay, great, Lavanya. I hope you got that tip written down. And, for you, Sujita, there's a question from Dave from Belapur. Like you shared, in different roles that you have played in this journey. I wanted to understand, how can we have a good balance between leader and coach when you're playing both with your teammates at the same time?
I think, to be very honest, we have complicated ourselves in the last couple of years with different designations like leaders and coach and so on. In the past, honestly, I think it was very simple. We used to just call it manager. I know the spirit of manager is a little different one, and we do not want to say that too often, because we don't like that spirit. We like the spirit of being a leader and a coach, so we adopt that. But I think in the past, the way we organized ourselves, as a leader during the IDM, in very simple words, you are following your economics, you're following whether the strategies were in place, you're following whether the team organization, et cetera, are in place. So that's really in the posture of a leader, because you're really following up on some KPIs. But when you discuss your pleasure, displeasure, or even your development plan, that's the role of a coach. You are in a posture as a coach to suggest, to give feedback, to challenge on some topics, but yet, in the posture of a coach. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, Sujita, you're now audible.
I think I missed in between. But yeah, I think in the past, the way we organized our IDMs with the way, the postures in different part of the IDMs, I think that's about it. Don't bang your head too much thinking about my posture is this way for this half of the meeting, and then the second half is going to be this way. Don't think about it too much. If you have the right trust level and a good playing field around you in terms of a good environment, taking that posture is not a big problem, according to me.
Thank you, Sujita, for that. And just to share with our audience out here, I'm really sorry, but time's up. I mean, I'm truly inspired by the conversation that we had today, and I'm sure if time was not the restriction, we can go on and on and on to discuss on this topic. So, Sujita, before we can conclude this conversation, any last thoughts that you would like to share to our audience out here today?
Sure. I think finally, I just want to say one thing very seriously. Take inspirations from people around you, but don't try to replicate anyone's journey, because you will have your own, start to think about it that way. Take inspirations for sure, but don't try to replicate, because that will complicate. And enjoy what you're doing today. We say that we do what we love, but also sometimes we love what we do also, in the company. So enjoy what you're doing, and try to keep your focus sustainable throughout without too many ups and downs. And try to take these tools of mission, IDM, value creation on your day-to-day activities, to reflect and to introspect. And I think all of us can perform in some way or the other.
Awesome. Thanks, Sujita, for your time and making it up for this conversation. Before we end this conversation, guys, thank you to the ones who have joined in through YouTube, through Zoom, giving your 1 hour to really listen. I hope there are questions in your mind that have been answered through this conversation. If not, don't hesitate. You can write, either directly to Sujita or to Sangeeta, me, Palak. And at the same time, guys, I think your questions might have an answer in the trainings that we have to offer. So there are a few trainings that have been launched recently. Firstly, IDM, individual decision meeting for teammates. It's a 3-hour workshop, and you can take a look at the Exchange website. Second, we have efficient and empowering IDM. So if you're a coach or a leader and would like to understand what are certain essentials that you need to take in your mind when it comes to taking someone else's IDM, that's the training that you would perhaps like to explore. At the same time, when it comes to value creation, okay, when it comes to mission and ecosystem, there is a session for 4 hours. You can take a look at that. And finally, there was a question in between the chat that I read about individual development plan and the difference when it comes to looking at 5-year trajectory. You for sure would like to explore the training individual development plan. All the information, you can find it in the Decathlon Exchange website. And if you have trouble finding it, you know who to contact. You can contact the Decathlon Exchange team. Great. And on that note, I would like to thank each and every one of you to join this conversation. I hope this was a fruitful 1 hour. If yes, before we leave, if we can quickly take a group picture. I'm a fan of taking pictures after every event. And if you can turn on your cameras so I can see the smiling faces that each of you have behind the screens. Yes, awesome, great. Yes, great, awesome. So if everyone's ready, let me take a screenshot. Shanky, Pranav, would like to have your screens on. Okay, awesome. 3, 2, 1. So guys, there are 3 pages that I have to scroll in. You might have to hold in there for some time, not long. Awesome, guys. Thank you so much for joining. Also, thanks a lot for the ones joining in from YouTube. On this note, I shall bid goodbye and have a great afternoon to each of you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you, Chelsea, Sangeeta, Palak. See you, everyone.
Guys, if you have suggestions for which topic you would like to see next and which speaker you would like to see next, please don't hesitate to write to the team of Exchange. It could be Chelsea, Palak, myself, or anyone else from the team. We have Mandeep, Nikhil, and Sunil as well. So please write to any of us and we'll try and bring that to you next.